Okay, so you guys told me to change everything to a fraction. I know it's a bit of a mess now, but x to the 1/2, 18 over x to the 1/2, the 3 and the 0. And in purple, what do we multiply everything by? And why? Because it's the common denominator. Technically, we should have found a restriction. There's only one restriction. What can x not equal? 0. That usually doesn't bother us in these type of problems. Okay, so x to the 1/2, 1/2 plus 1/2, you add your exponents when multiplying like bases. What's 1/2 plus 1/2? That reduces, and then 3x to the 1/2. I want to put it in order. Which one comes first, x to the first or x to the 1/2? The bigger one. Which one's bigger, 1 or 1/2? 1. And then you check, is half of 1 1/2? Yes? So it goes in this order. Now I know most of you guys were working ahead. Did you at least get this far when you regrouped it? If not, if you regrouped it in like a different way, you want to make sure you make a note to yourself. Larger exponent, smaller exponent, no exponent. And that half of this is the middle and half of 1 is 1/2. All right, equals 0. Is it x and x or x to the 1/2, x to the 1/2? And how do you guys know that? It's always the middle or half of the first. All right, what are my signs? Minus, minus, plus, plus, or one of each? One of each, because I'm trying to get negative 18. Anybody have it? Minus 6 plus 3. Does everyone agree? Yes? Set them each equal to 0. X to the 1/2 equals negative 3. X to the 1/2 equals positive 6. And what do I do next? Let's do this one first. What do I do? Square both sides. Why? Because 2 is the reciprocal of 1/2. And do you agree the 1/2 power is the same as a square root? And we square to undo. What does x equal? 6 squared is 36. And over here you're saying 9 for the same reason we square both sides? Okay. Why is this the one where we say no solution? It's negative and it is even. Be careful, be careful, be careful, because we get so caught up in squaring both sides. We're like, oh, do it everything. If you don't catch it, then you definitely want to go back and check your answers and see that this one would not work. All right, so what is our only solution? Okay, questions? Next one, what type of problem is this? Substitution. Only if you choose. If you can do without substitution, is that fine? Yes, perfectly fine. All right, and actually you want to be there eventually, not having to use substitution. All right, bless you. W to the 2/3 minus 8W to the 1/3 plus 16 equals 0. Is it in the right order? Is 2/3 bigger than 1/3? And when you cut 2/3 in half, what do you get? All right, so double bubble. What are my exponents? 1/3 and 1/3. And what do I do? Plus plus, minus minus, or one of each? Do you agree they're the same? And I heard one of you say it. What is it? Minus minus, because the neighbor tells me they are negative. Minus minus what? 4 and 4. Does that multiply to 16 and add up to negative 8? With these, I like to solve first, but we can definitely plug back in. I'm going to go ahead and plug back in just so you understand what to do when it looks like this. I'm not going to do this one. Why not? They're the same. All right, do you agree I have W to the 1/3, x minus 2 to the 1/3, minus 4 equals 0. Okay, can I combine these two terms here? No, what do I have to add over to the other side? The 4. Can I add the 2 over right now? Can I add the 2 over to the other side as well? No, it's trapped. And I do have one question for you. Let's just pretend, please do not write this down. If there was a 2 there, could I distribute the 2? What would I have to do with the 2? Divide it over to the other side. Okay, don't have to worry about it on this one. So what do I do to both sides next? Cube both sides. Do you guys all agree? Y to the 3rd power, because what's 1/3 and 3 are reciprocals, and what happens when you multiply? They undo each other. You're left with 1. X minus 2 equals, is 4 to the 3rd 12? What is it? 64. So what does X equal when you add over? All right, questions? Okay, when you come in tomorrow and you see these on the test, you guys are going to understand and get these, yes? Don't forget this one here. Don't make that mistake. Make sure you cross that one out. And know how to use your substitution. Okay, number 3. Is this one where I isolate the radical or just write it under one radical? Why? Because it is what right there? Multiplication. Okay. What do I do to both sides? What is that? Square. I'm gonna do 2 things at one time. I'm squaring, and I'm also going to distribute. Am I allowed to distribute that x? X squared plus 5x. And what happened with the square root? Canceled out with the squared. Okay. Do you guys know what to do from here? Yes? Okay, go ahead and finish it off. All right, did you guys get an answer? No? No comment? Okay, what do we do? Subtract the 36. X squared plus 5x. Take away 36 equals 0. Factor and solve. Has anybody factored it already? Thank you. Plus 9 and minus 4. Do you guys agree?
Yes.
All right, so what does x equal? Negative 9 and 4 is what I heard. Yes or no? All right. Now, I often have kids ask, how do you know which ones to check on the test? Is this one, look at the original problem, is this one I need to check? Not sure? You check problems that have fractions with variables in the denominators. You check to the restrictions. Is this one of those problems? No. The other type you check are square root problems, because square roots do have restrictions. Can you take the square root of a negative? No. So you also check square root problems. So is this ones that have the square roots in the original problem? Is this one of those problems? Yes. All right, so I'm going to do the check work here on the side. What do you want to check first, the negative 9 or the positive 4? Okay, x equals negative 9. Square root negative 9 times the square root of negative 9 plus 5 equals 6. Do you guys remember working with imaginary numbers last year and the year before? It is okay to multiply radicals, but when there's negatives involved, it works a little differently. I'm going to repeat that. It's okay to multiply radicals, but when there's negatives involved, it does work a little differently. Negative 9 times the square root of, what's negative 9 plus 5? Okay, what kids will do is they'll multiply these together and get positive what? And then say, what's the square root of positive 36? So it must work. That is false information. When you're working with square roots, yes, it's okay to multiply, but if there's negatives, you take special precautions. If there's negatives inside, you have to treat them individually. So using imaginaries, what's the square root of negative 9? 3i times, what's the square root of negative 4? What's 3i times 2i? Okay, so there's the 6, but what is I squared? Do you guys remember? Negative 1, so what's 6i squared? Negative 6. Does negative 6 equal 6? It does not. So, a few things you know. When you're checking and you're plugging in, if you're plugging in and you end up with the square root of a negative, is it going to work? No, you can go through and use the eyes and check it, but whenever you plug things in your original problem, before you multiplied, before you move things around, when you plug into your original problem, if you end up with 1 or 2 square roots of negatives, it's not going to work. So, is negative 9 a solution? No. All right, what's the next one we're going to check? 4. I'm going to do that one up here, just it's a little quicker. What's the square root of 4? Okay, hold on to that number over here. What's 4 plus 5? Square root of 9? 3, and 3 times 2 is, did it work? Yes.
So, like, at least for this task, can we say that if you do it with the square root terms and you get negative, so you can say that for sure?
That doesn't mean no negatives work. Negatives sometimes do work, but it doesn't work, thank you, if you plug it in and let's say after, okay, just that one there, because that's just the square root of x, no negative's going to work. But let's say it was negative 2x, and you plugged in the negative 9 and you multiplied and got a positive number, then it would work. Does that make sense? So it's when you, it's so not to say negatives never work or positives always work. It all depends on how you, when you plug it in, what you end up with. In this case, we ended up with negatives under the square root, so it didn't work.
So
That's not always the case.
But if we see, like, root x by itself, we can round it?
Yes, if you see root x in your original problem, like that right there, you know no negative is going to work.
In that case, we need to check it?
In that case, you wouldn't need to, well, as soon as you check it, you can say the square root of negative 9, not going to work. Got it? All right. So what is our only solution? 4. I have Emily and Isaiah. You can come up and pick these up. Okay, x equals 4. All right, next one. There's more than one right way to approach this problem. Any suggestions for me? We need to speed up, guys, so I need you listening. Any suggestions on number 4? There's more than one right way to approach this. Louder? Multiply it by 1/4. Okay.
Multiply root x plus 6 over.
Multiply root x plus 6 to the other side. Okay. Janelle?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing.
Same thing, but you got distracted with your phone.
I was looking
All right. No one's telling me to square both sides. If that is an option, you could square both sides. But listening, or you could put a 1 underneath and cross multiply. There's a number of ways. I'm going to go ahead and multiply both sides by the square root of x plus 6. Okay. So doing that, why would we do that? What happens here? Is that going to cross out? Yes or no? So I have x, root x, times the square root of x plus 6 equals 4. Does that look like number 3 now? Yes or no?
Yes.
All right, so can we treat it the same way where we write it under one radical? X squared plus 6x, I'm going to distribute already. So the question that you asked earlier about, in this case, can we know that no negatives are going to work? Yes, because you have the square root of x right there. All right, square your both sides. X squared plus 6x equals 16. Oh, subtract over and factor. Yes.
On number 4, I just squared everything from the beginning, like, so I'm not,
Okay. Can anyone answer his question?
That's not gonna work every time.
Okay, wait. Let's address this. I have said that before, but I didn't say that to this problem. What did I say earlier?
Well, isn't it because like the rabbit is on the other side?
Was nobody listening to me?
You only get one answer.
All I know
No.
is you're
You guys are, I love that you're giving me all these answers. These are answers I've given to different situations, but to this problem I said there's a number of right ways to do it. I heard this, and I said, nobody said it, but you could square both sides. Do you guys not remember me saying that? Yeah, I said you could square both sides if you wanted. Since nobody said it, I'm not going to do it that way. But would it work? So is that okay that you did it that way? Yes, so we don't lose an answer. It's not that it works sometimes. It's an okay problem to do it on. Why can we square both sides? Is there any plus or minus on either side? Not under the radical, but just like root x plus 5. Separate.
Otherwise you couldn't do that?
If it was, like say the left side had a root x and the outside it had a plus 5, you couldn't do that. Thank you. Yeah? But since it's just multiplication and or division, we're good. All right, what did you guys factor it to? Plus 8 minus 2. And then you get x equals negative 8 positive 2. And has anybody checked already? It can't be negative 8. Now be careful. Does that because negatives never work? That's not what it means. Because there's a root x by itself. If I plug in negative 8, can I take the square root of negative 8? No, we don't use imaginaries, and if you did, it doesn't work. We saw that over here. So negative 8's not going to work. Has anybody tried the 2? So you have root 2 times the square root of 2 plus 6, and we're trying to get it to equal, oh, nope, I'm sorry. Original problem. Root 2 equals 4 over the square root of 2 plus 6, yes or no? Root 2 equals 4 over root what? 8. Now, can I multiply both sides by root 8? Okay. Now, I said earlier, you're allowed to multiply radicals, but when there's negatives, you have to take special precautions. Are there any negatives here? No. So could I multiply them? Does root 16 equal 4?
Would there ever like be a situation where none of them work? Like either of them?
In that it could. I don't know that it happens on this test, but it could. It'd be no solution.
So
yes.
is it safe to say there's a negative answer, and if you plug it in, there's a square root, and you can't take the square root of a negative number, so we just rule that out?
Yes. It is safe to
Without
say.
having to plug it in, you could just see
Yes.
the negative number. And you plug it in.
Yes, and that was the question, guys. Did everybody hear that? Second time this question's come up. Is it safe to say if you have a root x in your original problem and you get a negative answer, you don't have to do all the check work because you know you can't take the square root of a negative, you're done? Yes, it is safe to say. Are we good? Again, that's not to say negatives never work, but in these two cases, because there was a root x, it didn't work. All right, next one. Yes or no, are my steps correct? Everyone paying attention. I'm going to square, and distribute the exponent and put it there and there. And cross out and cross out. Yes or no? No. And I often get kids saying, well, it worked, but it doesn't always work. And I check your work. So if you get the right answer, but you squared everything, you're going to get it wrong. What do I do? The easiest thing to do. Move the root x over. I often have kids say, well, can I leave it there in FOIL? Sure, if you want to make it harder for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. 4 plus root x. And then what do I do to both sides? And remembering when I square the right-hand side, can I distribute? No. So what do I have? 3x plus 16 equals 4 plus root x times 4 plus root x. Do you guys agree? Okay. Left-hand side stays the same. 3x plus 16 equals, can you guys do this with me? What does that become? Okay, she did it all in one step. Do you guys understand where she got the 8 root x? 16 plus 4 root x plus 4 root x is that, and then root x and root x is the x. All right, after all this, and we still have a radical, we go back to step 1, which is to isolate what? The radical, because there's multiple variables. Guys, I need you listening. All right, so we're going to subtract the 16, and we're going to subtract the x. Yes or no? Okay, 16 is gone. The x is gone, and that gives me what? 2x equals 8 root x. All right. Did you guys see one like this yesterday on the quiz? Don't remember? It was the last one on the quiz. I remember because a lot of kids were stuck. It was on the quiz. It's now on the morning review. Do you think it's going to be on the test?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, the reason why I'm pointing this one out is because I have kids that get here and they're kind of stuck. I still have a radical, so what do I do? Square. Say, okay, we could divide by 8 first. Is it going to go in evenly?
Could you divide the 2?
Could we divide the 2? You guys want to get rid of the 2 at least? Again, not necessary, but it does make it a little easier. So x equals 4 root x. Now, we could divide the 4 and make it a fraction or leave it where it's at. What are we doing?
Squaring.
Squaring both sides. All right, square and square, and x squared is x squared equals, now I had a lot of questions here. How do I square this? What's 4 root x times 4 root x? 16x. Now, most kids can see, let's see, I wrote all over it. Most kids can see this right here, this line, and know easily, oh, I'm going to subtract the 16, make it equal to 0, factor, and solve. And they can do that easily. And there's not a problem with it. Kids see this and like, oh, I don't know what to do. Divide by x? Do we ever divide by x? No. You still get equal to 0, factor, and solve. It's not the double bubble factoring, but it's still a factoring. So let's subtract over. X squared take away 16x equals 0. What kind of factoring is it? GCF? Is that correct? What are my 2 solutions? All right, there's a radical in the original problem. Do you have to check it? That's an easy check, though. What's 3 times 0? And the square root of 16? Minus, we're plugging in 0. What's the square root of 0? So 4 minus 0 equals 4. Yes or no? Yes. Yes. Where we didn't divide the 2? Yes. I'll show you right now after we check the 16. Does it work for the 16? Yes or no? Anybody can do that? What's 3 times 16? 48 plus 16. Square root of 64. Take away, what were we plugging in? 16. What's the square root of 16? And what's 8 take away 4? Did it work? Yes, that carried away. All right, so do both of them work? Yes. All right. The question was, what if you didn't divide both sides by 2 and you left the 2 there? And then you squared both sides. You'd get that and that, which would give you what? 4x squared equals 64x. We'd still subtract 4x squared, take away 64x. This time the GCF is not just x. What else am I pulling out with it? 4x. That leaves me with x minus what? 16 equals 0. 4x equals 0. X minus 16 equals 0. When you solve, what do you get for this one? X equals 0. What do you get for this one? Same answers? Yes, even if you didn't factor out the 4, even if you forgot and you left the 4 in, inside here you'd have 4x minus 64, and when you solved it, you'd still get 16 in the end. Got it? All right, questions? Okay, how many of you, when you took the last test, realized the really hard ones that a lot of kids missed were the ones on the morning review? Yes? Should you be studying this? I will be posting it online later today, so make sure you go over it. Okay, number 6, what are we going to have to do right here? Factor. I'm going to do that first. And if anybody's done it already, can you throw it out? X plus 4, x minus 3. Any thoughts on one of these, what I'm going to do?
Flip it around.
Right here, flip it around and take out a negative. Yes? Okay, so 5 stays 5 over x plus 4. Minus becomes 7 over x minus 3. Yes or no? Now, because it is an equation, can I treat it like a complex fraction and multiply and clear? Can I clear? Yes, because it is a what? It's like a complex fraction because it has an equal sign. I need phones put away, guys. Also, what do I have to worry about here because there's a variable in my denominator? Restrictions. What 2 things can x not equal? -4 or 3. Don't forget to check those restrictions. So what problems have restrictions? Variables in the denominator or radicals? Radicals, you can have a negative inside the radical, and here denominator cannot equal 0. All right, what do we multiply everything by? Everyone agree with her? X plus 4, x minus 3. X plus 4, x minus 3. And x plus 4, oh, extra parentheses. And x minus 3. All right, first one, does the x plus 4 cross out? Yeah, and mine got really messy, so I'm just going to write it out. 5 parentheses x minus 3. What are you going to do with that 5? Some of you probably have done it already. Mine just got too messy, so I didn't. X minus 3, so I have 7. X plus 4 equals, what reduces here, which is really nice? Both. So you're left with 3. All right, how many of you distributed as you wrote it down? Good. So what do you have? 5x minus 15 plus 7x plus equals 3. Is there any factoring and solving here? No. Can you guys tell me what you got for that like term? And then that like term. Plus what? 13. And I will let you guys finish. You guys can do that on your own. Subtract, divide. All right, did you guys do it? Is it positive or negative? And did you guys reduce? Okay, what do you get? -5 over 6. Questions? No questions? Okay. Are we ready for me to flip it to the back side? Really quick, look at the amount of work. Does your paper look similar to this? No? I'm only, no? You don't have work on your paper? Not this much work? Okay. Okay. What I'm getting at is the more work you show, the more what I can give you.
Credit.
The more credit, the more partial points I can give you when you mess up on the test. Keep that in mind. And you've learned from the last test, do I give you credit if your work doesn't back up your answer? No. Or you don't have any work. You're not going to receive credit. All right, back side. This one also came up on the quiz. I made a big deal about it during notes. Definitely on the test. Why do I keep making a big deal about it? Because kids mess it up. Any thoughts on this problem? Okay. Not a complex fraction, but I heard somebody say it. Is this one where we could use substitution? Yes. Now, I need you guys listening. I believe this was number 1 on the quiz. And I had a few of you guys not do it as substitution, and when you cleared it, you started to FOIL and distribute. It made it very complicated. The best advice I can give is from the get-go, recognize it as a substitution problem. Can anybody, those of you that said it, how did you notice? How did you recognize? These bottom two are the same, and one is squared and one is not. All right, so what are we going to let W equal? Oh, before we do, what's my one restriction? X cannot equal 2. What was the two last restrictions? -4 and 3, and my answer was -5, 6, so what were we okay? Yes? All right, X cannot equal 2, so 4 over W squared plus 5 over W equals, are you guys okay if I write that as -6 equals 0? W equals X minus 2. What do you multiply everything by? W squared. All right, 4 plus 5W minus 6W squared equals 0. What in the right order, what should come first? This one? I could factor backwards, but I'd rather not. Is this one where I could divide everything by a negative and get it positive? Or could I move everything to the other side? Okay, divide by negative. And either way would work, but I'll divide by the negative. Positive 6W squared minus the 5W minus the 4 equals 0, yes or no? All right, let me know when you guys have it factored. 3W minus 4 and 2W plus 1. All right, let's see. 3W and 2W, give me the 6W squared. -4 times 1 is the -4. -8, positive 3. Does it work? Yes? Do you... What? Okay, what's the next step? Set each one equal to 0. Do you guys want to plug in or do this first? Plug in the W. All right, guys, I still see a handful of you on your phones, and I'm asking again nicely, and I don't want to start getting mean and start taking them away, so please put them away. All right, what do we plug back in for the W? The X minus 2. Now, there have been problems where this is like a 1/2 power, so we add the 4 and divide the 3. We could do that, but is it okay if we distribute and combine like terms? Yes. Yes, because there's no exponent there. 3x minus 6 minus 4 equals 0. 2x minus 4 plus 1 equals 0. Do you guys agree? Yes or no? Yes. So 3x minus 10 equals 0, and 2x minus 3 equals 0. Can you guys go ahead and finish those off? All right, what are the two solutions? 10/3 and 3/2. Are those okay? Can I keep both of the answers? When I'm checking to denominator restrictions, do I have to plug in or just check to the restriction? Check to the restriction and we're good. All right. Are we good? Yes? Okay, next one. Why is this here? Because kids mess up with the fractions. What have I told you guys to do first? I'm going to distribute and change that to an improper fraction. All right, what does this give me? 1 over 12x and then minus 1/3. Minus 1 over what? And then x, and then minus or plus? Plus 1/6 equals what over 2? Are we good? All right. Nothing to reduce, so we go straight and clear. Anybody know what? Oh, are there any variables in the denominator? So any restrictions? Okay, what do we multiply everything by? 48. Do you guys want to multiply and then reduce, or just cross reduce as we go? Cross reduce. Okay, how many times does 12 go into 48? So 12 is 1, 48 is 4, so that leaves me with what? 4x. Take away 3 is 1, 3 goes into 48, how many times? So minus 16. Take away what? X plus 6 goes into 48, how many times? 8, so plus 8. 2 goes into 48, how many times? And does anybody have 24 times 7 yet? What is it? 168. All right, is this one where we factor and solve? Combine like terms and just solve, right? There's no x squared in there. So what does this give me? 3x. 3x take away what? Equals. All right, I'll let you guys finish. Go ahead and add the 8, divide the 3, reduce if possible. All right, what did you guys get as your final answer? What is it? Okay, what did you get when you added the 8? 176 over 3, and it does not reduce. You don't have to change it to a mixed number. That's up to you, or a decimal. The less work, the better. I'm done, and I'm good. Okay, questions before we move on to the true false? Yes?
What question do you know to check?
Okay. Now, can anyone answer the question? I did talk about it earlier, but I'm glad it's coming up again. The question was, how do we know which ones we have to check? Okay. Pretty much problems with restrictions. There's 2 problems that have restrictions. Variables in the denominator, as well as square roots. What's the restriction on a square root? You can't take the square root of a negative. That doesn't mean negatives don't work. You actually have to plug them in and see if it comes out to be a negative. Does that make sense? For example, I'm going to cover that right there. What if it was just root x plus 5 equals a number? And let's say x was -1. Would -1 work? I'm going to cover that. Would -1 work? Because -1 plus 5 is +4. And can you take the square root of a +4? Yes. So does that mean, again, if that wasn't there, are negative answers okay sometimes? What do you have to do? Check. Okay, so which ones do you check on? When your original problem has a what? A radical or a variable in the denominator. These we plug in and check. These we just check to the restriction. Got it? Okay, true, false. Okay, I'm going to go through it quickly. The solution set for x squared equals 12 is plus or minus 5, true or false? True. If I plugged in 5 squared, and if I plugged in -5 squared, either way, would I get 25 as a solution? Yes? True. Or if I square rooted both sides, would I get plus or minus 5? Okay, next one. X cubed equals 64 equals plus or minus 4. True or false? I heard both true, I heard both false. Okay, when I cube root both sides, do I use plus or minus? Not sure? Plug it in. What's 4 times 4 times 4? Is -4 times -4 times -4 also equal positive 64? No. So is this true or false? False. So if you're not sure, plug it in. Now, what they're trying to get you to see here is when we square root both sides, do we put plus or minus? Yes. When we cube root both sides, do we put plus or minus? No. When it's an even root, like square root or fourth root both sides, plus or minus. All right. Square both sides. And the answer is 36. True or false? Okay, I heard no trues. Why is it false? Good job. This is even and this is negative, and can you have the two together? No. If you're not sure, guys, we're not wrapping up. Check it. 36 to the 1/2, does that equal negative 6? 6 does not equal negative 6. It is a false. All right. Next one. The solution set for x squared equals 6x equals 6. That one is a tricky one. It's false because there's another solution. And I said it's tricky because I kept saying plug it in. When you plug it in, does it work? Yes. But is there another solution? Yes. And it said here, like a key word here, is it the solution set? Is there more than one answer? Yes. The kid who got 6, what do you think they did?
Divided by x.
Divided by x. X equals 6. Woohoo, I got an answer. What happens when you divide by x? You lose an answer. X squared minus 6x equals 0. GCF it. What are your true two solutions? Okay, so is 6 the whole set, the solution set? No, 0, 6 is. So this one is a false. Does it work? Yes. Is it the solution set? No. Questions?